It begins with a government announcement. A directive circulates across the country. Chinese students and workers are no longer permitted to enter the United States. The policy is framed as a national security measure, aimed at protecting sensitive technologies and domestic labor markets. On college campuses, multinational corporations, and research labs, the news lands like a shockwave. At first, disbelief dominates. China is the largest source of international students in U.S. universities, and Chinese workers are embedded across industries from technology to healthcare. The implications are immediate, visible, and profound. Universities feel the first ripple. U.S. higher education has long relied on international students, and Chinese students alone account for hundreds of thousands annually. They contribute not only to campus diversity but also to the financial health of institutions. Tuition from international students often subsidizes domestic students, funding research, infrastructure, and faculty salaries. With the ban in place, universities face sudden budget shortfalls. Colleges in states like California, New York, and Massachusetts, which host the largest populations of Chinese students, scramble to adjust. Scholarships, research funding, and even staffing decisions are reevaluated. Departments in STEM fields, particularly engineering, computer science, and physics, are disproportionately affected, as Chinese students form a significant percentage of graduate programs. The loss is not merely financial. Research productivity declines. Graduate students contribute significantly to laboratory work, experiments, and publications. PhD programs in the U.S. are partially sustained by international talent, which fuels innovation across medicine, energy, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing. As thousands of students are forced to leave or are unable to enter, labs slow, projects are delayed, and the pipeline of scientific talent shrinks. Universities attempt to recruit from other countries, but few nations can match the scale or the technical expertise of Chinese students. For U.S. research institutions, the gap is immediate and painful. Corporations experience a parallel shock. Chinese professionals occupy critical positions in technology, finance, and healthcare. Companies ranging from Silicon Valley tech giants to biotech firms employ engineers, programmers, and scientists who contribute to product development, research, and international business operations. The ban effectively eliminates this talent pool. Startups reliant on international expertise struggle to fill positions, delaying projects and potentially missing market opportunities. Established firms find themselves scrambling to replace skilled workers with domestic talent, often at higher cost and lower efficiency. Innovation slows, and in certain industries, the U.S. risks losing its competitive edge. The stock market reacts almost instantly. Tech-heavy indices like the NASDAQ experience sharp declines as investors digest the potential impact on growth-oriented firms. Companies heavily reliant on skilled international labor, particularly in sectors like semiconductor manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology, face reduced revenue projections. Investors anticipate slower expansion, delayed product launches, and potential challenges in maintaining global market share. Panic selling amplifies volatility, with ripple effects extending to broader indices. Wall Street, sensitive to growth forecasts and workforce stability, experiences turbulence that feeds into domestic and international investor sentiment. Small and medium-sized businesses feel the strain differently. Many Chinese workers contribute to manufacturing, logistics, and service industries across the United States. In cities with substantial tech hubs, hospitals, and research centers, a sudden reduction in skilled labor creates bottlenecks. Projects stall, customer orders are delayed, and operational efficiency drops. Labor shortages drive up wages for remaining skilled employees, increasing costs. Some firms are forced to downsize, postpone expansion, or reduce services. Communities dependent on international labor experience localized economic stress, even as national-level economic impacts continue to unfold. Consumer behavior shifts in response. As corporate productivity slows and layoffs or hiring freezes emerge, domestic households face economic uncertainty. Consumer confidence declines, leading to reduced spending in discretionary sectors such as retail, travel, and technology. Businesses respond by tightening operations, creating a feedback loop that compounds economic stress. Although the U.S. economy is large and diversified, the cumulative impact of removing hundreds of thousands of skilled workers and students from critical sectors is profound. The effects extend to intellectual property and innovation ecosystems. Chinese researchers and engineers have historically contributed to patents, publications, and product development in partnership with U.S. institutions. Their absence slows the pace of technological progress, especially in highly specialized fields like AI, robotics, biotechnology, and quantum computing. Collaborative projects with international teams are disrupted. The U.S., once a global leader in innovation, faces a temporary slowdown as the domestic talent pool struggles to compensate. Startups are particularly vulnerable as they often rely heavily on international skill sets to compete in high-tech markets. International relations and trade are also affected. The ban exacerbates tensions between the U.S. and China, potentially triggering retaliatory measures such as restrictions on American firms in China or limits on Chinese investment in U.S. assets. Diplomatic channels are strained, impacting trade agreements, research collaborations, and international business partnerships. Global supply chains, already sensitive to geopolitical events, face added uncertainty. Companies dependent on cross-border expertise may struggle to maintain operations efficiently, further affecting both production timelines and market prices. The higher education sector sees long-term consequences beyond immediate financial strain. Prospective students from China consider alternative destinations, including Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, and Singapore. U.S. universities, once top choices for global talent, lose their appeal. The reduction in diversity affects classroom discussions, cross-cultural exchanges, and the intellectual vibrancy that international perspectives provide. Alumni networks shrink, and universities face challenges in maintaining global influence. International rankings, which factor in global student participation and research output, may decline, affecting reputation and future recruitment. The healthcare sector experiences a parallel disruption. Chinese professionals, including doctors, nurses, and researchers, contribute to hospitals, research centers, and biotech firms. Their absence strains staffing, delays research in pharmaceuticals, and reduces operational efficiency in hospitals. Hospitals dependent on skilled international staff face increased workloads for remaining employees, potentially impacting patient care. Research collaborations with Chinese institutions slow, reducing the pace of medical innovation. The technology sector faces both short-term and long-term repercussions. Engineers and data scientists who leave or are unable to enter the U.S. slow development of AI, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and semiconductor projects. Startups face higher hiring costs as domestic talent is limited. Established firms may experience delays in launching products, maintaining infrastructure, or expanding globally. Investor confidence in high-tech industries diminishes, reflected in stock market volatility and reduced capital inflows. The labor market in general faces wage pressures and skill gaps. Industries reliant on highly specialized technical skills, such as aerospace, semiconductors, software development, and renewable energy, experience labor shortages. Domestic workers may fill some positions, but skill mismatches and training requirements delay full replacement. Wages rise in critical roles, increasing operational costs for firms and potentially raising prices for consumers. The productivity impact is uneven but significant, particularly in sectors with high international labor participation. The global economy also feels the shock. China is one of the world's largest exporters and investors. The U.S. ban on Chinese students and workers signals a broader geopolitical tension that affects trade, foreign investment, and global supply chains. Chinese firms may restrict collaboration with U.S. companies or redirect investment to other markets. Other nations adjust their policies to attract displaced talent, creating shifts in global innovation and production hubs. The U.S. risks losing influence in emerging technology markets as talent and research migrate to more welcoming environments. Stock markets worldwide reflect heightened uncertainty. European, Asian, and emerging market indices all experience volatility. investors anticipate slower U.S. growth, potential trade conflicts, and reduced corporate earnings. Commodity markets, currency exchanges, and international bond markets all react to the policy shock. Global investors reassess risk exposure, creating cascading effects that reinforce market instability. The interconnectedness of the global economy ensures that the impact is not isolated. A policy targeting Chinese talent in the U.S. reverberates across continents. Innovation ecosystems, such as research clusters in Boston, Silicon Valley, and Austin, experience slower project timelines. Collaborative research, often dependent on diverse teams, suffers delays. Graduate students, postdoctoral researchers, and international engineers who would have contributed to cutting-edge discoveries are suddenly absent. U.S. leadership in areas like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and advanced manufacturing faces temporary erosion as projects are slowed and productivity declines. The financial sector also faces cascading challenges. Banks and investment firms with exposure to multinational projects that employ Chinese workers or collaborate with Chinese institutions confront uncertainty. Valuations of companies with significant reliance on international talent decrease. Venture capital firms reassess risk in startups dependent on cross-border talent. The broader investment climate becomes cautious, reducing capital flows into high-growth sectors and delaying expansion projects. The social and cultural impact is equally significant. College campuses lose not only revenue but the richness of cultural exchange. Students, faculty, and researchers miss opportunities for cross-cultural collaboration. Local economies dependent on international students for housing, retail, and services experience reduced demand. Communities that have grown around international populations, including restaurants, housing, and cultural institutions, face economic and social adjustments. Policy debates intensify domestically. Lawmakers and business leaders weigh the balance between national security, workforce protection, and economic competitiveness. Advocacy groups, universities, and corporations lobby for revisions, emphasizing the economic and innovation costs. Meanwhile, public opinion is divided, with some supporting restrictions for security reasons and others warning about the long-term economic consequences. The political discourse becomes increasingly polarized, reflecting broader debates over globalization, immigration, and national priorities. The long-term effects extend into talent development. U.S. students may temporarily fill some skill gaps, but domestic education pipelines cannot immediately replace the expertise, experience, and global perspective that Chinese students and workers provided. Companies may invest more heavily in training programs, delaying projects and increasing costs. Innovation timelines stretch and the U.S. becomes less agile in rapidly evolving technological fields. Over time, international collaboration adjusts. China increases investments in research and development in other regions, strengthening partnerships in Europe, Canada, and Asia. Global innovation networks shift, potentially diminishing U.S. dominance in key industries. While the policy may achieve short-term labor protection, it creates long-term challenges for competitiveness, growth, and leadership in emerging sectors. In sum, banning Chinese students and workers creates a cascade of effects: economic, social, technological, and political. Universities face budget crises and slowed research. Corporations lose skilled labor, delaying innovation. Stock markets experience volatility and reduced investor confidence. Global trade, collaboration, and geopolitical relations shift. The U.S. economy, while resilient, faces slower growth, higher costs, and diminished competitive advantage in key industries. The scenario illustrates the delicate balance of globalization. Talent flows, cultural exchange, and international collaboration are not merely academic or social matters. They are critical components of economic growth, technological leadership, and national competitiveness. By removing one of the largest sources of global talent, the United States would face profound short-term disruption and long-term strategic challenges. Ultimately, this policy serves as a reminder: in a connected world, restricting the flow of talent has consequences far beyond borders. Economies, corporations, and communities are intertwined, And decisions in immigration, labor, and education have cascading impacts across markets, industries, and nations. The United States, like any nation, thrives on innovation and collaboration. Limiting that potential alters the trajectory of growth, competitiveness, and global influence for decades to come. The story of banning Chinese students and workers is not just about economics. It is about innovation, opportunity, and the interdependent reality of the 21st century. It is a cautionary tale of how a single policy decision can ripple across every layer of society, every sector of the economy, and every corner of the globe.